Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session of Facebook Live with the Innovative Dad. I'm Dr. Ari Yaris. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Maryland, former principal and parent coach. I am looking forward to talking to you this evening. We're going to be touching on I would say, a topic that is often fraught with controversy, or at least fraught with frustration, usually on the part of the parent, sometimes the part of the kid. And speaking as someone who's worked in schools, very often on the part of the teacher as well, and that's homework. There are pros and cons about whether or not homework should be something that we're giving to students, how much, at what age, what kind of work. Oh, it makes my kid bored, it disengages them from school. Like it, love it, hate it, ambivalent about it. One way or the other, most of us are stuck with our children receiving homework from the schools that they go to. And, for some good reasons. Homework does have some benefits to it, that it can help your child master an academic skill. It can help the teacher identify areas of concern by giving them more opportunities to practice. It can build some independent learning skills. It can build time management skills, and even help them with intrinsic motivation. It certainly can play an impact in goal setting. And one of the reasons that kids get homework is to help them prepare for using a skill, whether that's in class or as part of a quiz or a test. Now, we do know that research has shown that there's more evidence of homework being helpful at the secondary level than it is necessarily at the primary level in elementary or middle school. But we also know that parental involvement in homework has a really strong positive effect. And in fact, there's research that shows that parental involvement in homework has a stronger impact on student achievement than that parent's social class or the parent's own educational level, which have been seen as really important factors in determining how successful a child may be in school. So, it is quite possible that school success could be dependent upon you helping your child to manage their homework. So let's talk a little bit about some guidelines, some reasonable homework expectations. Now, the general rule of thumb is that a child should be expected to do 10 minutes of homework for each grade level. Now, hey, kindergarten parents, that translates as your kindergartner should not really be receiving homework other than the occasional reading practice that you might be doing with them. So that 10 minutes per grade level means 20 minutes for a second grader, 40 minutes for a fourth grader. And if you are finding that your child is working longer than this on the work that they're being assigned, that's a place to go and have a conversation with your child and with your child's teacher about the homework process. And we're going to talk a little bit about some things that we can do as parents to facilitate that. Now, there's some parent messaging that we really should take some ownership of in terms of talking with our children about homework, as frustrated as we might be or as philosophically opposed to it as we might be. So first is that we need to recognize and be clear with our kids in terms of our expectations that homework is an important part of school, that we have an expectation that you do it and that you hand it in when it's due. And that often is a critical part for some kids. When we hold kids accountable for their homework, we are building responsibility and time management skills. Most of us in our day-to-day jobs have things that we are required to complete independently, and we need to get that deliverable to somebody else. You need to let kids know that parental support will be there on an as-needed basis. We have kids that are overwhelmed by their homework. Either because it's not matching where they are instructionally, it's too difficult, or they don't have the skill set to be able to work on their own. But if we offer encouragement and we assure them that help is available when they get stuck, kids are less likely to get discouraged or frustrated when they're getting stuck. And sometimes the child just really needs to have an adult in close proximity when they're working on homework. A great strategy is if you've brought home your homework from your day job, or if you need to sit and pay bills, a great time to do that is to plunk yourself at the same table that your child is at. All right, one last clear piece of messaging that I think is really important is that parents will not do homework for their children. Okay, we got to be clear about where this role is. Whatever grade your child is in, most likely you have finished and completed that grade, and there is no need for you to repeat the third grade in conjunction with your child. Sending that message is designed to have the kids master the skills that are in front of them, not you showing them that you've got the mastery of those skills. Really, really important. Again, you don't need to go through the grade that your child is going through again. So I want to throw out some steps here for you for building healthy homework routines with your child. So first step, you got to check in with your child every day. You've got to ask, in the car, when you get to the house, when the child comes off the bus, whatever the routine is, what is your homework? What have you gotten done already? And then, that sort of builds the rest of this from here, but without making and setting clear what the homework is, none of this is going to be helpful. And when your child is unaware of what the homework is, that's going to give you some clues that they might need some organizational support, and you might need to work on some homeschool communication. So next, in terms of building these healthy homework routines, you want to create a space for homework. Now, this does not need to be run out to IKEA and purchase your child their own desk. It just needs to be a designated space there they can work on their homework. It should have good lighting. It should be away from distractions, and that distractions include screens. And for some kids, going back to what I talked about earlier, it might be helpful for it to be to an area close where you are so that you can keep them going with a little bit of supervision. So, you set them up at the dining room table and you be in the kitchen getting dinner ready. Whatever works. That proximity can be really helpful. You're an arm's reach away. It's great. Next, you got to keep them supplied. I know that one of the easiest excuses for not doing homework, and my kids have tried to pull this on us, is I don't have the right school supplies. My pencil's not sharpened. I don't have a pencil. I can't find an eraser. So one of the things that we've done for our kids is that their school supplies for home are in a clear plastic box, and that box has paper, crayons, glue, scissors, anything in particular to their learning at the grade level that they're at. The box is portable so that if we need to change the location where they're doing homework, so let's say the dining room table is covered, but they're going to work at the kitchen table, we can move the box there. The box also has taped to the top of it a list of what's supposed to be in the box to make it easier for us and for our children to check the contents of the box sporadically and make sure that the right things are in there, again, to avoid this problem of, I don't have my supplies. All right, next. It's really important that you set up a schedule in terms of building these healthy homework routines. Timing is everything. And, in our heads, we often think that, okay, the second the child gets in the door, let's get that homework going. That might not necessarily be the right time. Kids come home from school, they're tired, they're hungry, and they might need a break in order to be able to approach doing some independent learning. Your kids. Figure out, when in the afternoon or evening is going to be the best time to sit down and get homework done. And pay attention to whether or not it actually gets done based upon the schedule that you're setting up. And, feel free to be iterative in this. If after dinner is not working because dinner is running too late, you're suddenly running into bedtime, play with it, adjust the times. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Next, you really want to get them organized. And this means, first, being aware of any kind of schedule that your child's classroom teacher has set in terms of when assignments come out. So new spelling words might come out on a particular day, or reading practice might be on another day. So have a sense of what that flow is And if it's not something that was covered at back to school night, check in with your child's teachers and ask those questions so that you can get a sense of the rhythm of assignments. That schedule can help younger children. With older kids, you're going to want to use a calendar or planner to help them prioritize work with different due dates. Now, beyond that, you're going to have to make plans for completing the homework and walking through that. So what are the tasks that need to be accomplished? And when are you going to begin each class, and how each task, and how long do you think it's going to take you? Oftentimes a child is going to want to work on the most exciting portion of their homework, and which may not be the thing that they should really be starting with. And having that back and forth with them, I think, is really important. Again, in terms of building some of those metacognition skills, those thinking about thinking skills that we really want them to start to develop as they move from early childhood into adolescence. All right, another step for building healthy homework routines is that you, as the adult in the room, need to be willing to say stop. All right, we've talked about this 10 minutes per grade level. Your child should not be up all night doing their homework. And this goes for high school students as well. If your child is taking more time than should be roughly allotted. Now, I'm not saying, okay, my child is a 5th grader and it took them 55 minutes to complete the homework. I think there's a fine buffer right there that you can work with. But, look at what's going on with your child. If they're blowing past that estimate of how long it should be taking them, are they getting started right away? Are they initiating that task? Or is there some kind of procrastination going on? And you may want to stop that stopwatch that you have running in your head for every time they get up to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, check to see if the mailman has arrived, pet the dog, whatever it is. You also want to pay attention to whether or not they're understanding the directions and what they're required to produce. What is the deliverable? What's the product of the homework? And if they're having difficulty with that, that's a great place to shoot an email or send a note in to your child's teacher and saying, hey, on last night's homework, they didn't understand X, and they got stuck on it, and we spun our wheels, and I asked them some questions around it, but it was really clear that they just didn't understand it. And that's part of the last step as well, which is this checking for understanding. Now, if your kid's got 20 math problems, you do not need to check every math problem that they've done. But you want to stop and ask them to share with you about a few of them and help them see if their answers make sense. So you're going to ask them to explain what the task is, have them reread the instructions if you think they don't understand them. Going over the homework, pay attention to whether or not they've answered all the problems. Sort of be like, oh, wait, you missed number 22. There's no answer there. Now, when you're going over homework with your child, if the answer is wrong, do not give them the correct answer. Again, going back to that parental messaging that we were talking about earlier, it's not your job to do the homework. You're not going to do that homework for your child. They have to do it. But have them explain the answer that they got and ask them if the answer makes sense and explain that, okay? These are really good strategies for building up those healthy homework routines at home. Now, it is always possible that you're going to need to do some troubleshooting around homework that's just not happening the way that it is. So let me walk through some things to think about in terms of troubleshooting these homework problems. So first, you want to make sure that you're supervising but that you're not micromanaging. And none of us like being micromanaged at work, and our kids don't want that either. You want to provide the minimum necessary help for the child to be successful. So, don't do more than is necessary to help your child succeed, but do enough to help its success. If you feel that you're doing your child's work, again, we just touched on this, because that's the only way that they can succeed, then you need to talk to your child's teacher about modifying the work so it doesn't require that level of support. All right, you want to help children establish and maintain their organizational systems. We talked a little bit about this in terms of healthy homework routines, but pay attention to what's going on. Are they putting homework in the appropriate folder in their notebook or backpack? Are they cleaning off the desk and the workspace so the next homework session can begin in an orderly fashion? And you may need to even be supervising a little bit what's going on at the beginning and the end more directly for those pieces. Okay. Next is to be willing to look for others for help when you're troubleshooting homework problems. You may want to switch off with your partner if they're available, alternating by nights or by subject matter. I'm the math helper, you're the English helper, or what have you. And you may also want to reach out for support for other family members, right? Grandparents, older siblings, a good family friend. Because sometimes kids are more cooperative working with other kids or different adults, certainly than you. And it may even be that you want to have a high school student come in and supervise homework sessions if that's something where you just need the extra support. All right. Let's talk a little bit about incentives, because this is something that you can use to support your child and putting these in place. And if you keep an eye on the blog, I'll be putting something up shortly about the difference between rewards and bribes, which I know is often a touchy topic for us. Are we bribing our child or are we rewarding our child? So stay tuned for that. That'll be some content that'll be up shortly. So, generally I recommend, if you think you need to put an incentive or a reinforcement system in place, that you start simple before you go crazy. So a simple incentive system has something that the child is looking forward to once the homework is complete, because it's more of an immediate reward. It could be including building in breaks along the way. All right, after 10 minutes of homework, you can take a break, go do some jumping jacks, run around the house, go out, shoot some baskets, what have you. Or after a set amount of work is completed. Either is a great way to build in just a simple reward, movement, getting up and doing. And then another way to sort of build in some incentives into the system is just by building in choice, in terms of giving them more say in terms of the order with they're completing the tasks or the schedules that they're following. Now, you can also, if you think that a simple system is not working, and if you've got more significant homework problems, you may need to move to a more complex system of incentives. Now, generally what I recommend when you're doing this is that they work best when you develop them with your child. It gives your kids some input in terms of their sense of control and their ownership of it. And when they feel that they have input in it, it makes it more likely that the incentive system will be successful. So things that you should do: you need to describe what the problem behavior is. What is the what that's going wrong? Is it, it's taking too long? They're procrastinating, they're not understanding, or whatever it is. You need to set a goal. Okay, what does it look like for this to be done? Whether you're getting the homework done before dinner starts, or you get that one complaint, you fetch once, and then you're done. Whatever it is, and then you need to work out what the rewards or penalties are. Whether it's access to screen time, TV, video game, what have you. And then I really encourage you, particularly when you're dealing with this with older children, but even with younger children, is to write out a homework contract which clearly identifies what you're going to do and what the child is going to do for getting this done. One of the things I always talk about when we're setting up rewards is make sure it's something that you can repeat and not that you're not feeling, that, oh, well, I promised them Disney World for completing their homework on Thursday. I don't know what we're going to do the following Monday. So don't go crazy. Keep it within something that is comfortable for you from a values perspective, comfortable for you from a financial perspective, and fits in with the way that your household works. Next, you really want to get, in terms of troubleshooting these homework problems, having a clear line of communication with your teachers, whether this is emails directly to the teacher, using the parent portal to communicate with your teacher, or even just a notebook that's going back. Some teachers that I've worked with have required parents to sign off on assignment books or on separate pieces of paper connected to specific assignments, so that confirmation that these things are happening is going back and forth. Most kids won't need too high of an intensity of communication, but make sure that you're taking advantage of other opportunities to be communicating with your teacher, whether that's a parent-teacher conference, or back to school night or open office hours, whatever that is, so that you can understand what homework policies are and what homework practices are, but also being able to then give you information to help communicate with your child about why the homework is considered to be important. Now, if things are continuing to go wrong, you may want to pull in additional school personnel to help establish supports within the school. We're not, as parents, able to solve all of our children's homework problems, particularly when we're dealing with issues where it's a knowledge gap or a skills gap. And so we really need to be communicating with the teachers about it, whether it's that they just don't understand the skill. And often we fall into the trap as both parents and educators that we assume the kids are being willful and forgetting assignments or not bringing them in. And we know that, at that point, rewards or punishments are not necessarily going to solve that problem. If your child has attentional difficulties or working memory deficits, there are going to be some other cues and supports that are going to need to be in there. And having your child have a very clear homework routine from a teacher, that there's supervision in place to make sure that they've handed in the homework from the night before, that they're writing down new assignments, and that they're bringing home necessary materials, that they might be getting some coaching on planning and time and task management skills and organizational skills. And after this, what I say at that point, and you've got a child that's got failing grades or grades well below the student's potential, that it makes sense at that point to look at after-school help from teachers or tutoring, either through the school or privately, or at that point making a referral to a student support team or in a special education if an educational disability is what's beneath all of this. So that's a lot there about homework, but I think, to me, the key piece to it is really making sure that you're communicating these messages about your expectations around homework, and that it is not considered to be a fire and forget process. Like anything else going on in our children's lives, it needs our active care to make sure that it's something that our kids can be successful at. So keep in mind about these steps for building healthy homework routines, and I'll post a link to an earlier blog post about those in the comments section for this Facebook Live session. And stay tuned and take a look at the blog for that post about bribes and rewards as well, since there's a clear connection here in terms of trying to build some incentive systems into our homework routines when it's necessary to encourage that. So that's it for tonight on helping our children with homework. As always, feel free to drop me a line at psych@reyaris.com or go to the website www.reyaris.com and check out the blog. And feel free to drop me a line if there's a topic that you're interested in having me cover at a future Facebook Live session. I'm always interested in hearing what the parents have out there to say and what challenges you might be facing on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, good night, and happy parenting.